Hey, coffee crew. Welcome back, all my besties. I hope, cross my fingers, knock on wood, hope, burn sage, that life is returning to something resembling normal around here. But I'm not dumb enough to hold my breath yet. It's already still today's Thursday. I normally record on Wednesday, so it's not completely normal. My kids went back to school this week, which kind of gets them on a schedule, but it throws my pets off. They act weird. And they make sure that I know that things have changed, that they're not happy about it. My honey-do list is slowly being converted from the honey, I'll do it myself, back to can you help me with? So, I don't know, progress, I guess. Today we're going to be talking about something that I actually really love deeply. And I think it kind of gets wrapped up in a lot of unnecessary guilt for people. I know. Reading. Or more accurately, how we read. What it looks like. And kind of why the definition of a reader has gotten way too narrow for its own damn good. I want to start with the guilt conversation because I'm not really a reader is complete and utter bullshit. If you read articles, newsletters, social media posts, fan fictions, if you're getting older like me and have subtitles on everything so you don't miss anything, manga, however you pronounce it. I've never really gotten that part right. Or the comment section of things you're into. Congratulations. You are a reader. And I also want to add this one. If you listen to audiobooks while you commute or work out, you get to count that too. Graphic novels, comics, same deal, bestie. People consume more written content in a week than most folks did in a month before the internet existed. Yet they still say they don't really read. I don't know who decided that reading only counts if you're sitting in a leather chair with a 900-page classic like The Art of War. But they can go sit in the corner with that damn judgmental frog of mine that still stares at me from time to time. I really got to get rid of that thing. Somewhere the definition got way too narrow. There was a secret meeting. Everybody voted. You have to read things like War and Peace or The Art of War to qualify. You don't. If you are consuming written content, you are reading. Period. And honestly, some formats are gateways. For example, when my kids were little, they hated reading. Hated it. It was always an argument. They're dyslexic. And kind of staring at a wall of text for them is just torture. But enter Dogman by Dave Pikely. And oh my goodness, they loved it. They had to have every single one that came out, I had to pre-order. They'd read them over and over and over again. Now, eventually, they moved on to other books. But Dogman, for those who don't know, or a graphic novel, cracked the door open. So please don't knock graphic novels or manga or whatever your thing is. Because if it gets you reading, it counts. And now, yes, our attention spans are about as long as my dog Rain's when the truck drives by. Loud, fast, and not long. We kind of talked last season about how everything is destined to make you react fast. And that kind of carries over into how we read. If we can't finish something in one sitting, our guilt tells us, don't start what you can't finish. TikTok brain is real. We bounce from subject to subject. We skim headlines. And my husband, who will swear he doesn't read, and then I'll catch him spending an hour on ESPN.com consuming article after article about the upcoming season. That's reading, my love. But that doesn't mean you're not a reader. It just means you're reading in the format that the world is handing all of us right now. And, here's the thing. It's a muscle. You can stretch it back. Even 30 minutes a day can get you into longer stories. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. A story you read, whether it takes hours, days, or months, is still a story. It's not like in a spy novel where the book explodes after 10 minutes. It'll sit there and wait. Book talk, I think, is one of the coolest things to happen to reading. It kind of made reading social again. People sharing what they're reading, recommending books, building little communities around stories. There's also Facebook groups now for individual authors, genres. It's basically like the old school serialization novel, but digital. For those you don't know, newspapers used to run weekly chapters of stories, and people would gather around to talk about them. And we've kind of circled back to that way, and I love it. Books are having a moment, and I am here for it. In all this debate about physical books versus e-readers versus audio debate, again, fake war. Now, don't get me wrong. Personally, I prefer a physical book over an e-reader. I don't know. The feel, the smell, the whole vibe of having a book in my hand, I love. Don't mind my cats. And yes, to all the librarians and teachers out there who are going to gasp in horror, I am a bend the page to market person in my book. But it's my book. I own it, so fuck it. I'm a mark where I'm at. And it proves I'm reading it. I'm also a big fan of audiobooks. Audiobooks have, kind of saved my life. I'm training to eventually one day run a marathon, so I have big chunks of time where I'm just running. So I can't physically do other things. Crocheting. I can spend hours crocheting. Dishes. Or my husband getting on my nerves for the 100th time while he's been off. I can just pop on my headphones and go into somebody else's world. I can get through books that I've never had time for otherwise. The format doesn't make the story less real. So pick the format that fits your actual life. Also, for my gaming listeners out there, visual novels count. Yep, you're reading, you're reacting, you're choosing paths. It's basically like a choose your own adventure book, but it has art and sound. So don't let anybody tell you that that doesn't count. And I'm going to leave this segment with this. Read what you actually enjoy without apology. I read manga. I read fan fiction. I read gay romance novels. I stumbled onto the Puckboy series by Eden Finley and Saxon James, and I have binged every single book that they've ever written since. And it's just like back in the day when women would hide their Fabio-covered romance novels because they were told to be embarrassed about it. People still hide what they read because somebody else decided it wasn't serious enough or it was something to be ashamed of. Fuck that. Read the thing you actually want to read. That is the whole point. All right, for this week's Stitch Happens, I want to expand on why my husband is one of the major reasons I appreciate audiobooks. And this story has written itself kind of over and over again in the 17 years we've been together. We all know my house is chaos. I have kid chaos, animal chaos, and most of all, husband chaos. My husband specifically seems to have some kind of radar that activates the moment I try to read a physical book. You know, I'll be completely lost in my fantasy world, absolutely nowhere near reality. And he will decide, after he's been sitting there silently for a couple hours, that it's the perfect moment to start talking. Now, this is covered in When You Live with the Reader 101. Rule 1. Do not talk to them while they read. But my husband never did pay attention in school, so I guess it tracks. He breaks rule number 1, and I lose my place. Which makes me stop, look up at him with this really look. You know, every couple has that look. You have to have it for situations like this. And he goes, "Oh, you're reading," and stops talking. Apparently, he has now remembered rule number 1 and has seen the error of his ways. So I go back to my book and I spend 10 minutes trying to figure out where I was. And I finally find my place again. And you would logically think that'd be the end of the story. No. One interruption. Now he knows. So let's move on, right? No, not my chaos causing husband. I find my place. I start reading again. I'm immersed back into the lives of somebody else's chaos. 2 sentences in, and he starts talking again. See, he has now broken rule number 2. You must interrupt the reader. Make sure you get out everything you need to say the first time. So I stop. I attempt to look at my place. Look at him again with the "really? This shit again" look, which is kind of like the first look, but it has a bitchy glare on the end. He goes, "Oh, I forgot," and smiles and stops talking. Now this time I've wised up. So I'm going to wait a good 10-15 minutes before I jump back into my book, because I'm thinking that will safely get me out of the "oh, I forgot to tell you" zone. But nope, not my husband. This happens on repeat over and over until finally I give him the "are you fucking kidding me" look. And I either slam the book down, or if I'm particularly irritated and it's a paperback book, I might throw it at him. Well, my aim sucks, so it's more like I throw it near him or in his general area. I mean, I'm not proud of the throw, mainly because my aim sucks. But after, it's happened time and time again, you sometimes you just need to throw things. He does this when I crochet too. Like, I'm counting stitches. And I've talked to other crocheters, it's really common. And my response is I start counting louder. And the more they keep talking, I add anger. 4 becomes 4. With each interruption, it gets more and more and more until the message finally lands. See, he does learn. It kind of takes him a while. So I'm telling you, husband radar is a thing. It specifically activates when you are in the middle of something that you really need to pay attention to. It's like there's a biological mechanism that detects when your wife has achieved inner peace and immediately sends a signal to start talking about nothing in particular. There's nothing like being ripped out of the middle of a fantasy world to hear things like the dog wouldn't go poop. Great. Thanks for the update. I will say, I do get you back though. I have been known to walk in front of the TV during a Madden pass play, or I will start asking detailed questions during the last 5 seconds of overtime in a real game. See how he likes it. Reading and marriage both require patience, the willingness to find your place again, and knowing when to put the book down before somebody throws it badly. So one of the great things that I love about books is that the same book does not land the same way at different points in your life. I have gone back to read things I read as a teenager and found completely different layers in them when I view them through my new life experiences. Also, I've realized that the character I identified with as a teenager is not maybe the one I identify with now as an adult or as a parent. You know, maybe I discovered what I thought was a happy ending was actually kind of devastating when you read it as an adult who understands what the characters were actually giving up or dealing with firsthand. Rereading is way underrated. We live in a culture of more, next, new, now, go, go, go. Always moving from one thing to the next. Always the new release. Always the next big thing. And there's something to be said about revisiting something that you've already read. It's kind of like when you rewatch an old TV show. You know, things will pop out that you didn't quite notice the first time. Or you catch foreshadowing the author hid that you might have missed. You know, once you know, like, say, who the killer is, you can see, if you reread it, how the clues actually pointed to that all along. You can see different, you know, the character arcs differently now that you know where the story ends. The first time you were so busy following the path to the end that the second time is kind of when you notice the trees and the birds and the squirrels. The books that change you and change how you see something aren't always the one you would expect. It's not always the important literature that, you know, you had to read in school and write a 4-page report on. Sometimes it might be something like a romance novel that gave you the first model of what a healthy relationship actually looks like. You know, where one person makes a mistake, owns up to it, and changes. Sometimes it's a fantasy series where a character processes grief in a way that finally gives you language for something you've been carrying for a long time. Or it could be a book your kid was reading and you picked it up to check it out and it wrecked you. The books that stay with you are not always the ones someone told you were supposed to count. They're the ones that hit your heart and your mind in ways that really matter. Let's talk about speed reading too. Speed reading culture has sold us on the idea that you have to get through a book as quickly as possible. Now, I'm a fast reader. I am. My husband will sit sometimes and watch me and say, there's no way you read that page that fast. But I'm like a heavy reader. I'm telling you, I'm a heavy reader. I could read a book a day, probably. As a kid, books were my safe space. And like any skill, the more you do it, the faster and more efficient you become at it. And for sure, certain things, like when I have to do research, information gathering, professional reading, efficiency really matters. It really helps me out. But that's not always the goal. Sometimes just sitting with something, reading it slowly, letting the sentence and the emotions that it invokes actually land before you move on to the next one. That's a different experience entirely. Both have value. Just kind of know which one you need to do and why. Now let's talk about DNF. Did not finish. This is a skill, not a failure. For my crocheters, it's a lot like your whip pile. The idea that you have to finish every book just because you started it is a lie. And it's costing people their reading life. You know, it's just like not being able to put down a crochet project and move on to one that maybe you're really excited about and it can kill your crojo. If a book is not working for you, if you dread picking it up again, if you have been on page 47 for 3 months and that damn thing is still sitting there, you're allowed to just not finish it. You have not failed. You're not going to be kicked out of the readers club. What you have done is you've made a resource allocation decision. I know, sounds so grown up, doesn't it? Your reading time is finite. So you need to spend it on the books you actually enjoy. So just like we have Crojo, this is your Bojo. That sounds kind of dirty now that I think about it, but book joy. And book joy is just as important. The relationship between what you read and who you become is real. Not in a pretentious, you are what you read kind of way. You're not going to read a gay book or have a book with a gay character and become queer. You're not going to read one with religious aspects and all of a sudden change your beliefs. See, that's not how identity or beliefs work. It's more quiet and honest than that. What it is the perspectives that you live through when you read fiction, the situations that you would get to experience, the emotions you process through somebody else's story. All of that builds something. You don't become them, but what you do is become more empathetic and understanding of their point of view than you were before. You were a different reader and a different person than you were 10 years ago. And the books that you have chosen or the stories and content you have chosen to read are part of that reason. All right, people, let's move on to Brews News, where my speed reading comes in handy. As always, I like to date and timestamp these. It is August 20th, 2026 at 8:47 a.m. And this is what I have as of this moment in time. Story one, as always, we do the Epstein update. I want to talk about the Katie Fang lawsuit. This is a big active thread right now with what's going on with Epstein. So for those who don't know, Katie Fang's a journalist and an attorney who sued Blanche in April, arguing that the DOJ failed to fully comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And she won a groundbreaking victory in June when Judge Sullivan found that she had the right to sue in her capacity as a reporter after suffering what they called an informational injury from the government's refusal to release the files that by law they're supposed to. The August 13th hearing is the most current development, and Judge Sullivan told a packed courtroom, the public has the right to know what the hell was going on in this case, and warned that the DOJ, that contempt was not a threat, it was a promise. The DOJ attorney said he was not in a position to commit to a time frame on when the documents would be produced, to which the judge replied, you want me to issue another order and say I really mean it this time? Todd Blanche, the Attorney General, originally claimed that the redacted names were victims. But when pressed, he said attorneys for the people mentioned in the files had contacted the DOJ and requested that their clients be treated as victims. This is including an email where the sender complained about being called a sexual pervert for saying 14 and 15-year-old girls were fair game. That's just one example of a co-conspirator claiming victim status loophole that I talked about in episode 1 and is playing out in live court. Meanwhile, Comer is signaling that the Republicans want to wrap up the House oversight investigations before the midterms, with criminal referrals likely. Democrats responded that the investigation cannot end when there are still 3 million documents still unreleased and the New Mexico case is still actively being blocked by the DOJ. As always, keep the pressure up. Don't let these women be silenced. Now I want to talk about Trump and the BBC. It's not getting a lot of attention, but I want to highlight this story because it's using the government power to prevent a legal defense. And I want to make sure that the framing is clear. So Trump sued the BBC for $10 billion, over a 2024 documentary called Trump: A Second Chance. He claims the documentary spliced footage of his January 6th speech to make it appear he directly told supporters to attack the Capitol. Trump's the plaintiff. He brought the lawsuit. So the BBC is not doing anything but trying to defend themselves. As a part of the defense, BBC tried to subpoena Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Jared Kushner for testimony and records about what they knew and did on January 6th. Now, this is standard legal procedure for lawsuits. The defendants need to build a case to defend themselves. Here's the part that is extraordinary, and I won't tell you how to feel about it, but the Secret Service is physically blocking process servers from delivering those subpoenas. That's, again, this is all standard legal stuff. They went to their residence, Florida, New York, every time law enforcement was present and explicitly stated it would not accept the documents on the family's behalf. The BBC had to go to federal court in Miami to get a judge to force the subpoenas through. So let's just sit with this for a second. The man who filed the lawsuit is using the power of the federal government to prevent the people he is suing from building their legal defense. Legal experts have confirmed that no president in American history has used the power of the office to block civil lawsuit subpoenas for adult family members in a case that the president himself initiated. The BBC lawyers pointed out clearly, this is not harassment. It's a standard legal proceeding. The family members cannot be exempt from it. So we're waiting to see what the court rules on the motion. Reading is one of the most underrated and important empathy practices we have today. You can't spend hours, days, weeks inside somebody else's perspective in their thoughts, their reasoning, their inner emotional world without it changing you or how you perceive things, at least a little. Now, I'm not saying they're going to convert you to their world views. But by giving you a chance to live their point of view, see where and why they arrived at it, that's no small thing, especially in a world that's been designed to keep us each in our own corners. So if you want to stretch yourself, reach for something written from a perspective you don't usually inhabit. It's not a homework assignment. Don't pick up a book and send me a report. Please don't do that. And don't do it because you have to or because I told you to. But because the you who comes out on the other side of that book will know something they didn't know going in. And I think that's worth experiencing. And I also think it might help mend the split that this society keeps trying to push on us. Some books become shared language between people. You hand a book to someone because it's the fastest way to explain something about yourself. Like, read this and you will understand why I think and feel the way I do about that thing. Or maybe this character did things that I have never been able to put into words. It's a specific kind of intimacy and understanding. It's real, and honestly, the world needs more of it. Fan communities and book clubs, they're doing something important too. Just like crafting groups and gaming groups and all that stuff. Anytime people get together to share something they love, they are creating the experience of a shared story. The collective processing of something that moved people. The debate about what things meant, the friendships built around caring about the same fictional people in the same fictional world. That is connection, same as any other kind. A crochet pattern is someone else's knowledge handed to you. Hours of their trial and error, their expertise, their creative vision, packed into instructions you can use and build from. Reading is that same exchange. Someone lives something, or imagines something, or researched something for years, and then compress it into a thing that you can hold in your hands and absorb in a fraction of the time. You get the joy of the experience without having to do the work. And that's an extraordinary act of generosity. Every book is someone handing you something they worked extremely hard to make. And whatever you choose to read, romance, horror, literary fiction, graphic novels, fan fiction, manga, cozy mysteries, true crime, self-help, or, in my husband that just woke up, ESPN articles. All of it counts. The gatekeepers of reading are just as annoying as the gatekeepers of gaming and crafting and everything else we've ever talked about on this show. What you read is yours. Your reading life belongs to you. You don't have to justify it to anyone. All right, coffee crew. Time for Shuffle Happens. Take a nice, deep, slow breath and let the week settle. This week's card is the Two of Cups, so close your eyes if you can and immerse yourself in the imagery. The scene is dark and a little foggy. You are somewhere between worlds. Not fully night, not fully somewhere else. The realm in between. Silver lights shine down from above, catching the mist. Sparks drift through the air. In the center, two women are kneeling on rocks, facing each other. Both are in pink, sparkling dresses, the kind that catch the shimmer of light and give it back. The woman on the left has long blonde hair flowing around her shoulders. On her head sits a crown made of gentle flames. In her hands, she's holding more flames, cupped, offered, ready to give some of it to the woman across from her. The woman on the right, she has long brown hair pinned back. She too wears a crown of flame. She's reaching forward to receive, and the gentle flame gently dances across her fingers as it moves between them. They are peaceful, serene. The flames pass between them not as a contest or as a transaction, but a joint blessing. Old knowledge, old magic, shared freely. Neither loses in the giving, and both leave with more than they came. Upright, the Two of Cups is about connection and mutual exchange. The moment two people meet each other with the presence, both offering, both receiving, both changed by the encounter. This card shows up when a relationship is building something real. Not one person giving while the other takes, but a genuine back and forth. It can be romantic, but it doesn't have to be. It's any relationship where both people are bringing their flame and both are being lit by it. Reversed, the Two of Cups asks where there is imbalance. Where are you giving your flame to someone who keeps their hand closed? Where are you holding back yours from someone who is reaching? This card reversed is not about abandoning the relationship. It's about noticing where the exchange has gone one direction and asking whether it can be restored. The two women in this card are not performing the exchange. They are in it, fully present, letting the flames move. So pick up a book and let someone else's flame light your path for a little. Be open to the exchange. All right, coffee crew. If you couldn't tell by the end of the Shuffle Happens segment, my entire house is starting to wake up and, mom talking on a microphone means diddly shit. So let's wrap this up. Reading is still reading. However you do it and whatever you read, the format does not make it less real. The genre is not something to be hidden away and read in the dark. And if you want to push yourself a little, pick up something you wouldn't normally choose. Give it a fair shot. It might surprise you, Or it could also confirm exactly why you usually read what you read. And that's also useful information. Quick milestone update. We're a year old. I know. Can you believe it? You guys have been listening to me ramble and my house chaos for a full year, and apparently you enjoy it. I love being able to share my flame with you all. Come find us on Instagram at coffee.crochet.conversation and on Facebook by searching the show name. Come and tell me what you're reading right now. I want to know. Maybe I'll pick it up and give it a shot. Also, feed that algorithm monster while we're at it. Make sure that prick doesn't forget about us. Let's spread the show and grow the crew. And as always, Coffee Crew, keep your stitches sassy, your coffee strong, and your spirit grounded.